What a special time it is in these days and hours leading up to Pesach. I find it exhilarating to be involved in so many activities to prepare for the Seder. It's also a lot of fun to have so many chametz snacks. If you're short a few, I've got plenty in my office. You're invited to partake. I want to share with you a framing idea and then 5 practical tips for enhancing your Seder this year. The Sfat Emet points out that Shabbat and Pesach have something in common, which of course this year, given the nexus of the two with the first Seder being also on Shabbat, is an important nexus to be thinking about. The Sfat Emet says that both Pesach and Shabbat have a mitzvah of zechira and a mitzvah of shmira. We say Zachor et Yom HaShabbat LeKadsho, that's part of what we do with Kiddush, with saying things that have to do with the specialness and the uniqueness of Shabbat and distinction from the other days of the week. And of course, Shamor et Yom Shabbat LeKadsho, guarding, keeping the Shabbos, is all about the mitzvot hayom, refraining from doing certain things and abiding by all of the hilchot of Shabbat. Similarly, Pesach has a mitzvah of Zechirat Yitziat Mitzrayim in the most intense form possible. The mitzvah of Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim, of telling the story, is most achieved during the entire year on Pesach night. And also we have Ushmartem et Hamatzot. We are meant to have special guarding of our matzot. Of the Shmura matzah comes from that term lishmor, to guard, to keep. And so we have both of these dimensions of remembering and keeping, of recalling and observing, of learning and doing, talking and behaving. Perhaps that is why the Pesach Seder is something that is so fundamental to Jewish identity. They say that almost 90% of Jews in Israel and in abroad have a Pesach Seder because it's so fundamental to who we are. It really is the bread and butter, no pun intended, to what makes a Jew special, is having this duality of Zechira and Shmira, which happens every Shabbat and also happens every Pesach. And so this year we have an incredible opportunity to maximize on the intersection of those two by making our Seder memory making. And to offer you some practical tips for doing that this year, here is a countdown of 5 practical suggestions to do at your Seder this year. Number 1, an icebreaker. When people sit down at the table, be aware of how they are arriving. Ask everyone, before even starting to sing Kadesh or Chatz, to share something distinct about themselves so that they can feel present and that their voice is going to be contributing to the Seder table. In our house, we often we invite people to share or recall a distinctive Seder experience and why it stands out. This often works a little better when you have older people who have had many life experiences that have been around for different Seders, and you can get some really amazing stories and contexts out of this icebreaker. Number 2, and this one I borrowed from our scholar in residence 2 Shabbatot ago, Jordan Gorfinkel, with regard to Kos Eliyahu. He suggested that you put the Kos Eliyahu in the middle of the table at the beginning of the Seder, and everybody after each of the Kosot, if they have some leftovers, they can pour some of those leftovers into the Kos Shel Eliyahu. This is a way of conserving leftover wine and also symbolizing that everybody around the table is contributing to the Kos Shel Geulah. Eliyahu's cup, it symbolizes the 5th of the cup, the Veheveti of the Lashonot Geula, the bringing of the Jewish people to Israel, and also the coming of the Mashiach. And so everyone should feel like they are contributing and being a part of that, whether it's adding a few drops or a little bit more. And this is a wonderful way to get everyone involved in that process. Tip number 3, eat matzah in silence. There is a great concern on the health side of things that eating and talking can cause choking, and so on a practical level, one should try and chew without talking, but on a educational and experiential level, there is a lot to be gained by being in silence while eating your matzah. really internalizing the power of the moment of eating something that our ancestors ate for thousands of years on this night, going back to Yetziat Mitzrayim almost 3,400 years ago. Hearing the chewing allows us to really inhale the fuel that the matzah offers to us, the spiritual fuel that it gives us towards our movement from Avdut to Cherut. Tip number 4, make a Seder board that the kids can put up the various steps. You can use Velcro. One trip to an art store you can get all the supplies you need. That's a good thing to do with the kids on Erev Pesach. Keeps them occupied. They can, you get a little bit of a poster board, and you get Velcro. You put the 15 steps of the Seder, the Arba Banim, the Daled Kosot, the 10 plagues, and you keep the pieces in the middle of the table. And as we go through them in the Seder, the kids can go up and put that piece on the Seder, and in return get a little bit of a prize or something that they can cash in for an Afikoman prize later. Shout out to Julie Galler for sharing that idea. Sarah and I are going to be experimenting with that this year. And finally, for the 5th tip, the last part of the Seder, Nirtza, is often one that we don't take full advantage of. People are exhausted, they are tired, perhaps a little tipsy from the 4 cups, and people are often heading up to bed. So how do you make the end of the Seder, the songs, enjoyable and memorable? You can make some kind of competition out of it. In my family, we time the amount of seconds it takes us to go through Ad Yerhu. We do it at a pretty quick pace, and for there's a certain intensity that everyone gets involved. You got to say all the words clearly, but you also try to do it at a quick pace. For Echad Miodea, you can assign different numbers or different verses to people sitting across the table, so there's sort of bouncing back and forth, the good energy that's generated at the beginning of the song, and then it builds. For Chad Gadya, you can assign animal sounds, which is always a fun and good way to end the Seder with a laugh and some fun memory making. I hope that these tips are useful to you. I hope that you can use them at your Seder table to maximize the potential of having the Seder on Shabbat this year, so we can create a Zechira and a Shmira, an opportunity to meld the two of the doing and the learning all in one. I wish you and your families a Chag Kasher V'Sameach.